Hello and welcome to Little Life Big Loss. This is Kiki. What's your name on your birth certificate?
Hello. Kiki.
Christina. Is it? Kiki, I love that.
Yeah.
Cutest name
Yeah.
ever.
Kiki.
I was like
Short and
looking at your
sweet.
form and I was like, it'll be Christina, and then it wasn't. And I was like, oh, I wonder if she just goes by that name. So good.
Just Kiki.
What a cool name.
Just little old me.
Little old you. One of a kind. So I've never actually met Kiki, although she lives not far from me. She's just in South Brisbane. And I think Lara, a friend of mine, introduced us on Instagram maybe. And you had your little baby, you lost your little baby only a few days after Milli. I just was having a look at your form then, only 2 days after my little Milli Rose. So I'm super excited to hear your story today. Thank you so much for coming on. I know, and I will share right now, I know you are currently pregnant with your next little bubby. That's so excited, and we will absolutely hear more about that soon. So I just wanted to preface that, but we are going to dive right in. So who was Kiki before she experienced baby loss?
That's a really good question, and I've seen one of your podcasts before, and I was, very interested by how people answer it. To be honest, I've had a little think on that one, and I was just ready to be a mum. That was who I was before baby loss. In terms of professional life, I'd practiced as an exercise physiologist for 6-7 years. I'd been a practice manager at a psychology clinic for a year previous, and an allied health clinic before that. Wifey, family gal, all of those things were part of who I was and who I still am. But who I was just before baby loss was a Kiki ready to be a mum.
I love that. Ugh, so heartbreaking. And so tell us about your journey to conceiving.
Well, it's a bit of a short story. My husband and I got married in 2022, September 2022, and we knew that we were ready to be parents. We were so excited. So it was the next month.
Well,
I fell pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fairy tale story.
Well, yeah, honestly, I know it doesn't go that way for some, and I am super grateful for that part of our journey. It was just very straightforward. We were expecting it, but not expecting it. We were just like, okay, now's the time, and we didn't get to try for very long.
Yeah, poor husband.
I don't think he's
amazing. And I guess at that point you were probably like the rest of us before we experience baby loss. We're so naive to what can happen, right? It's like, amazing, we're pregnant, and away we go. And
yeah, all of the things. I know I'm skipping forward a little bit when I say this, but I was literally saying to my husband today how it's the thing that really sucks about all of this is the innocence and the tainted joy that sort of gets taken, or the innocence gets taken away, and then you have that tainted joy in this next pregnancy. Yeah. But in terms of pregnancy, it is a completely different ball game after loss. And what I really loved is he turned and, well, he was driving, so he didn't turn physically to me, but he said to me, yeah, but we were lucky we had our first time. We did experience a really beautiful pregnancy with all of that joy and none of this. So I know that we are privileged in a way, because I know that other people have had, I know people like yourself have had a bit of a journey to get pregnant, and there has been different losses along those journeys as well. And we got to have a really innocent, pure experience which we are really grateful for.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
What a beautiful man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
he's the most beautiful.
is he? And I think I saw your wedding anniversary post for him, and I was like, oh my God, so beautiful.
I'm biased, but
That's
openly, happily biased.
a beautiful place to be, though. I think baby loss, everyone says that marriage is hard, but you add baby loss into the mix of a marriage, and it's just like, it is detrimental. And
It's
it's
hard,
like,
man.
it's so hard. Yeah. And I just think that, like, there's a statistic that says that 85% of marriages fail through baby
Yeah,
loss, and I can so see why. So the fact that you guys still have that beautiful bond is so
100%.
nice.
Oh, it's something that it's one of my greatest accomplishments is being in such a solid, beautiful relationship and marriage with Tyler. It's hard work, just
Mm-hmm.
um, like you said, and you add baby loss, and I completely understand why that statistic is so high.
Yeah.
We've definitely had our hard parts and had to work on it together really, really hard. But I think that's just it. It's deciding to work on it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
walking through
that
that
is it.
fire.
It is a decision, right? Like, you have to decide to
Mm.
work on it, because I know even at some points I was like, I'm out. I can't do this, because I was like, I just can't do anything else but try to survive. And when you're both two
Mm.
totally different people, but I had to make the decision, like,
Mm.
I really want my marriage to work, because someone said to me, oh, the grass isn't greener, and I was like, I'm not going to any other grass. Like, I'll be single for the rest of
Yeah,
my life
no.
if my marriage doesn't work out. I'm just going to be a single lady in a unit with a cat and a
Yeah.
dog. Like, that was it. But it was like, okay, so I'm either going to live that life, or I've got to understand that I want to make my marriage work. And so it is a decision to make it work, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Every day. And I think that's true for relationships, just in life, but so furiously through trauma,
Mm,
because we all go through it in a different way. And, you know, shout out to dads who have to go through this as well, because it's a completely different journey.
yeah.
Um, but it's not an easy journey either. And I think having an appreciation for the fact that we are going to be different, um, and it's a good thing
Yeah.
because we're having different experiences, so that when you have that appreciation for the other person's journey, you don't take it on as your own.
Yeah, that's such good advice, because I know, like, for me, I struggled with Dylan not showing as much as what I was. And I was like, why isn't he hurting? And why am I hurting so much?
Mm.
But then, since my mental health has gotten better, like, we went to New Zealand and I've been feeling a lot better, he's been more vulnerable. And so I think he was trying to put
Yeah,
on this really happy facade almost to keep me afloat, which, like you were just saying, then it's
yeah,
good that we grieve differently, because if we were both a mess like I was, our house sort of fallen apart and know what, do you know?
yeah,
So, it's
yeah.
been so nice now that I've been able to soften a little bit. Now that I've, like, gotten better, he's softened a little bit. And it's actually, yeah, a really nice difference to see. Not that I wanted him to be hurting, but I also just thought, like, why am I so
No,
fucked up from this? And he's not. But now,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's
They're our
nice.
providers, right? They're the strong men, and strong means a lot of different things, obviously. But
Yeah,
they protect us, and that's what they're wired to do, just like we're wired um, to be that maternal sort of emotional side.
yeah,
So
so
celebrating
true.
that is a good thing. It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Oh, you're awesome. You're beautiful.
Sorry, we went on a bit of a tangent there.
We did, but let's let that happen. That's fine. And so let's go back to your pregnancy with Sprout. So you fell pregnant
Yes.
easily. By the sounds of it, you had a perfect, beautiful
Yeah.
pregnancy. You had scans. Tell me about everything.
So I guess our journey is um, a little bit different to inverted commas your typical one, because we went down the home birth route. We had a private midwife, so for the most part, yeah, honestly, it was. I kept touching wood because I kept saying how perfect the pregnancy was. It was hard. Pregnancy's hard. Like, I
Yeah.
knew I was signing up for that, so I guess I was never really caught up on um, when people said, "Oh, how what's it like? I had
Yeah.
morning sickness. That sucked. As a first time, mum, the morning sickness got me probably, that was one of the hardest things
Mm-hmm.
because it puts you on your ass and it forces you to slow down, and that ain't me. And it just got me mentally because you really just have to listen to your body
Yeah.
and nourish it. Um, but I had that until about 18 weeks.
Yeah.
So we had a private midwife. We decided on home birth, um, mainly because it was super normal for me. Like I was born at home, my siblings were all born at home.
Oh, wow.
Lots of people, yeah, very normal in my circle
Sure.
for home birth.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew lots of success stories and blah blah blah, all those things.
Mm.
So we had a 20-week scan.
Yeah.
That was the first scan we had. We'd had, Dopplers and all of that, blah, 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 previously with our midwife. Everything tracked normal. 20-week scan, the lady literally said, "Oh, Bubba's so perfect." And that was that. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing else to it. What else? You still have to register with the hospital through, a hospital when you're going through home birth. So, we
Okay.
did all that. We saw the midwives at the hospital.
Okay, so you did still do hospital visits or just?
So it's just the one. When I guess it's like I'm not. I don't know about the terminology. I'm really sorry. Someone will probably know. But it's like a registration um, or something like that, so that if you do need to transition or have any care, transfer of care or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
that you are registered with the hospital.
So they know about you.
So
They could potentially expect
yeah,
you, so to speak. Yeah.
yeah, and if we change decisions or anything like that. So we did that. That again, nothing
Yeah.
out of the blue. Um, Everything was quote unquote normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt the kicks. I was growing. I was gaining weight. Uh, I never had any cravings. I had like a sugar aversion.
Oh, really?
Um,
Yeah, actually, I couldn't have
I just,
chocolate.
yeah, I just didn't feel like it. I did. It wasn't like
Interesting.
I was sickened by it, but I just
That's
wasn't
good.
interested.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. Are you
I mean,
normally a
it didn't
sweet
really
tooth?
faze me. Oh, not really. So again, it wasn't like
Yeah.
it wasn't a big deal for me. I didn't miss alcohol. I didn't miss coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I love I love the second part of it,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm really really glad that I also got that because the yucky part that is attached to our journey. I still have really beautiful memories and feelings towards that.
Yeah. That's so nice.
Um, and then, um,
So you had
I
it.
guess
Did you
should I
have it?
continue? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you had a 20-week scan, you were registered with the hospital, you had a private midwife, and you were planning a home birth.
yep,
Yep.
yep. And I was the lowest risk person. First time, healthy. Young. Blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah
How old are you?
blah. I'm 30 at the moment.
Yeah.
Soon to be 31. Um, I went through my GP to get the referral to the home birth midwife as well. So, you start the process there. She was happy for me to do it again because I tick all the boxes for it being super
Yeah.
cool for it
Yeah.
to be possible. Um, and to be honest, even if I had have gone the non-home birth route, everything would have been exactly the same.
Okay.
There would have been no change. After the 20-week scan, they don't find anything. If everything's normal, you don't have any more scans after that.
Sure.
All my blood tests were normal.
Yeah.
Um,
So you would have just waited to go into spontaneous labour anyway and gone to the public hospital. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of that journey, it just would have been really standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went into spontaneous labour. Ironically, it was the day that we had a midwife appointment. And I'd had Braxton Hicks actually. From about halfway through my pregnancy, I just felt like tightening every now and then, like down or blah, blah, blah. So for me, that was normal. It wasn't excessive. It wasn't painful.
Yeah.
Came with anything extra.
And because that is normal, isn't it? You can start to have Braxton Hicks quite early. Like everyone always thinks that it's like the contractions before the contractions, but I have heard you can get them quite early.
It didn't feel, honestly, they weren't earth-shattering. Like it just felt like your abs are turned on.
Okay.
Like you're just like kind of tensing your abs a little bit, but you feel it that it's just hugging the baby a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, and I got them more if I overexerted myself. So I was always conscious of not doing that.
And so how many weeks were you when you went into labour?
I went into labour at 39 weeks. It was 39 plus 5 or something. Went into spontaneous labour. It was on the day we had a midwife appointment. She looked at me and said, "Oh, you look a bit flushed. We'll book our next appointment, but I think we're going to have a baby by then."
Yeah.
And my husband joked and he said, "Look, I've got a meeting tomorrow that I really don't want to do. So, it'd be great if you went into labour tonight, and we better go and get the hose for the birth pool then."
Yeah.
So we went out, had grilled, went to Bunnings, got the hose, and when we were having dinner, I was having Braxton Hicks, but they were regular, so they weren't painful. It was just every 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, this is different. This is different."
Yeah.
Anyway, that night they were more intense. So I knew they weren't full-blown contractions. Well, I guess maybe they were by that point because I was so used to Braxton Hicks. But yeah, through the night, I didn't sleep.
Yeah. Were you excited or were you nervous or it was painful or all the above?
All of those things, yeah. And I was I was in such a good mindset. I was like, whatever this is, bring it on, baby. I was made for this. My body was made for this. Women are awesome. I was pumped as well as all of the other things. So T didn't go to work.
Got out of that meeting.
Got out of that meeting. Text my mum and the midwife, and so mum was like, "Okay, I'll be over in a couple of hours." Because they were still like more than 10 minutes apart. It was morning, so they were getting slightly more intense. So just waited at home. Mum got here, put a TENS machine on. Huge. Oh my God, it's the best thing in the world. TENS machine.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, and a birth comb. Holy crap, we joke about that being the MVP of the whole birth.
What's a birth comb? The one that you press into your hand or something? Yeah. Smush it into your hand?
Yeah, so like that. It was one that was not as structurally sound as that. And it was so good. Honestly, I I don't know, just it did something magical for me.
I
I took
had
it in the
I had
shower and
I
everything
had
like that.
seen them before, I think on like
Mm.
Bubba Bump or something website. So I had like that and the TENS machine and everything on my if I had labor,
Yeah.
like I ended up having a Caesar, but I had them on my list. So I was always wondering whether that actually worked or
Oh,
not. Amazing. So
100%. 100%. They were lifesavers. Um, and it was painful.
yeah.
It was, I'm not
I
gonna
think
lie.
women are absolutely
Um,
amazing. That's so cool.
oh, it's just phenomenal, really. And then mum ended up coming over and bless like mum and tea, they were making sure I was having coconut water and food and um, it was we knew that labour would probably um, slow down a little bit during the day
Okay.
because we'd done a course during pregnancy and
Yeah.
like oxytocin and what is it, melatonin and stuff. Not melatonin. I hope I got that right. Baby brain. Um, you know,
Serotonin? Oxytocin and serotonin?
yeah, it's the. I'm pretty sure it's melatonin.
Okay.
Um, when that is reduced as well during the day, because it spikes during the nighttime. That's the hormone
Okay.
that helps you sleep and stuff.
Oh, okay,
Um,
melatonin, yep.
but yeah, it's lower during the day, which is also one of the hormones in labor that helps with all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of it didn't get they didn't get closer together per se, but I was still using the TENS machine and everything like that. Oh, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being really long-winded, but I'm trying to
No,
remember as I go.
you take your
Um,
time and do whatever you need. I always just butt in with questions. So with your mum had birthed you at home and your siblings, and had she ever been there like for other people's births, for home births and stuff?
I don't think so. That's a good
No.
question. I don't think
Mm.
that she has um, been there in other births per se, but
Mm.
I couldn't say that for sure.
Mm.
Um,
And
she
how many
definitely
siblings
could.
do you have?
Well, I'm the eldest of four, but with my mum, there's myself and my younger brother, so she's had two.
Okay, yeah.
Um, yeah, and so I think it was on, and we were still in constant contact with the midwife. Um, Pretty sure I lost my mucus plug on Thursday afternoon, um, and that's wild. It's just mucus
Losing a
plug
mucus cup.
stuff.
So the Thursday would have been the 20th. That would have been that's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
So we're
that's the
into
10th.
the sort of those contractions over Wednesday night, Thursday morning,
Yeah.
and then sort of had let's say we started labouring on Thursday.
And so the
Mucus
mucus plug
plug,
was gross. Gross.
I knew it was, the bloody show, all that stuff. And you're like, oh, cool.
This is
It was kind of
happening.
exciting because you're like, oh, it's progressing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so then I'm sure I'm missing out bits or I'm
Okay.
jumbling bits, but um, then I kept going to um, really small confined spaces. Like I really loved labouring on the toilet, like backwards on the toilet with a pillow.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
or on the birth ball in the corner of our bedroom. And T was like doing the squeezy thing on my hips.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of got a little bit annoyed at one point and said, I can't fit in there. And if you see a photo of my husband, he's huge.
I
And
have
he's
seen him, yeah.
trying to fit in these like small pokey parts where I've decided to like get on all fours or something. It's just funny. It just instinctively you sort of go to smaller confined spaces to feel safe. I guess it's like a
Okay.
primal
Yeah.
thing.
I have heard of a lot of people that sit on the toilet during labor.
Yeah.
Facing backwards, I haven't heard.
Yeah, it was just easier for me, I felt, and because it was cold, being
Okay.
winter, it meant
Yeah.
that I could have like a blanket over the back of me, and like mum or T were rubbing my shoulders. Um, Over Thursday night, I got into our bathtub, and warm water was just heaven. And I was listening to like my hypnobirthing tracks, and I got into like the zone. I was just breathing, and contractions got down to maybe they were down to like 6 minutes apart, then 4 minutes apart for a little bit, but it would never stay
Okay.
like 4 minutes, or between 4 and 6 minutes. It would never stay that close for sort of longer than half an hour.
Yeah. And then
Which
what would happen? It would
at
go
that
back up to a
point,
long point of time, like a longer.
yeah, it would go back up to like 9 minutes or something like that. And I didn't really think much of it by then. And then I early hours of Friday morning, I think my waters broke, or late Thursday night. Well, what I thought was my waters, I think it was just, in hindsight, I think it was my forewaters. It wasn't my forewaters, but the midwife ended up coming on Friday morning, and that's when they set up the birth pool and everything. And that was at the point where it was way more intense. Like it was getting harder.
And so was it normal to have been going from the Wednesday? Like that was because that you wouldn't have caught an active labour until the Friday, but was the midwife wasn't
Yeah.
concerned at any point in there thinking like you'd been going for a while?
No, because again, like I know women who have had longer labours, so
Yeah, we
for
hear
me,
about
I
it,
wasn't
right?
stressed
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't in my head about it. The midwife was okay, so that was fine.
Yeah.
But then it got to like Friday, when I got in the birth pool. Friday, like mid morning, and um, the midwife said that I was in like active labor because I was starting to feel like I needed to. I didn't say I needed to push, but she's like, "Well, I can hear it's different." So the
Wow.
second midwife came, got in the pool, and I don't know, I just couldn't. This is, I guess, one of the trigger points for me. I just felt like a lot of people say it's like, oh, when women say I can't do this, you know that the baby's right about, like, just about to come. But I felt like I said, I don't know why I can't do this, and I was frustrated, but I wasn't saying I can't do this because of pain. I just didn't know, like, why. Baby's head is there, like we could feel it, like see it. I wasn't crowning, but
Yeah.
um,
Do you feel like you had like
so
an intuition or a gut instinct or something like that? Is that what it was?
in hindsight, I think so.
Yeah.
But again, because things were starting to progress, it wasn't. There was no like alarm bells type thing, and so we tried a few different positions, and I was exhausted by that stage as well.
Of course. Of
um,
course.
yeah, and so I ended up having a VE, or a vaginal examination, and
Okay.
the midwife found that his head was backwards. We didn't know
Okay.
it was a he by that point, but so his head was like that instead of like that.
Okay.
So she's like, that's probably why um, it's hard for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to try and reposition him, which was really painful. It was really, really painful, like having to do knees up on the couch, arms down on a pillow, and having contractions to try and basically bring his head
Oof.
back so it could descend a bit. That was the most pain. That's the most pain I've ever been. That's 11 out of 10. But I was like, whatever I need to do, I will do. I don't care.
Fuck. So brave.
And like the whole time we were getting like checked regularly,
I was
heart
going to
rate was
say, so
there
was that the
regularly.
first vaginal examination you had done? But yeah.
Yeah. And I was also, I think at that point, I was like 4 centimeters. I was only 4 centimeters dilated. Whereas, like, to me, I know that dilation isn't, it's a good something to
Indicator.
do to, yeah, it's a good indicator, but it's not the, it can be very, it, just because I was 4 centimeters then doesn't mean that I was super far away.
Yeah,
I could
got
have had
you.
a baby
That's what I
within
know
the
that a
next
lot
half
of,
an hour,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know a lot of girls do say they don't want to know because it can put you off and think, oh my gosh, I'm so far from it. But then you can dilate quite
Yeah.
quickly as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I, she was like, "Oh, you." That was when they found that the head was back a bit. I was 4 centimeters, and then they did the turning thing, and I was just exhausted. I was just
Yeah.
wrecked. Um, and so the midwives were like, "Okay, we're just gonna chill now for the next hour. I want you to try and just recoup, just rest."
Yeah.
Um, so I just lay with my husband and we'll check again in an hour and see. So it was about 5 o'clock on Friday night. Um, we had another VE and it was 8 centimeters on contraction. So
Okay.
I think I was 6 centimeters and 8 centimeters on contraction, which still I think in midwife terms I think I would still be like 6 centimeters or something.
Got you. So when you contracted, it would expand, but then it would go back down again. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So um, up until this point, it's kind of like, well, if I had presented to the hospital, would I be let in?
Mm.
Who knows? Because my contractions weren't really
Oh, so they don't let
staying.
you in if you're not at a certain point.
I don't know. I don't quote me on any of this because
Okay.
it's I don't know 100%. But um, a lot of the time, you're not sort of ready, right, until your contractions are 4 to 6 minutes apart, and you're at least 6 centimeters dilated or whatever. But again, I'm not a medical professional in that department, so I don't know. Um, but yeah, so I got checked after just having a rest, and I was like 8 centimeters on contraction. Head was in back in the right position.
Oh, good.
My mum walked down the corridor. She's like, "Woohoo, we're ready to
Mm.
go."
Yeah.
This was in our bedroom. T was with me, the midwife. The last thing to do was like check the heart rate because again we were getting regular heart rate checks, and she couldn't find it. And I was
What the
just
fuck?
laying there, and she didn't say anything. And she was like, "I'm just gonna go get more gel." And the whole pregnancy, that was the one thing with Sprout is as soon as the Doppler got my belly, boom, heart rate there, thick, fast, like unwavering. Um, and she couldn't find it. And then I wasn't panicking at this point. I think I'd just gone, I was alert, and she went and got the second midwife because there's always two midwives at a home birth.
Okay.
She got the second midwife. T left the room. Little I didn't know, but he picked up on the vibe, and
Fuck.
he was you know not good.
Mm.
And he went out to the kitchen and said, "Lee, my mum, can you go and be with Keeks?"
Fuck.
And the second midwife came in, and then he's told me this, like he said to himself, "Oh no, if Kiki's in there by us, like without me, I need to be back in there." So he came back in. The second midwife was looking. And she just didn't say anything. And my mum said, "Can you just tell us what's going on?" And she said, "We're having trouble finding Bubba's heart rate, and we're hoping that they're just in a funny position, but I think we need to go to the hospital." And I just remember saying, it's it's almost like something snapped to me, like there was a switch. I just said, "This is not happening. This is not happening." Um, and I don't know, my emotional brain got turned off, and it's just like, I don't know, soldier. I'm gonna
Yeah.
call myself that.
Yeah.
Just got switched on, and I was like, "Okay, what do we do?" And she was like, "We need to get to the hospital." I said, "How do we get there?" And she said, "Are you going to be okay to drive?" And I said, "Fuck no." And then I
Yeah.
turned to mom and said, "Mom, can you?" Yeah. Um, Mum will go with you. So we'll jump in the car because at this point, like, we only live 7 minutes from a hospital. So
Yeah.
it would take longer to call an ambulance and get an
Sure.
ambulance than it would to just go to the hospital. The
Yeah.
midwives were like, "Okay, we'll call ahead. We'll let the hospital know." And then
Fuck.
we get in the car. So T, my mum and I get in mum's car. They get in their car, and we go straight to the hospital. And the whole time, I was just holding my belly because Spratty was really responsive to me the whole time. But just moving him around in my belly, then there was just nothing. And it was, I was just saying, "Come on, Sprouty, come on, Bubba, come on, Bubba, stay with us." Like, we got to the hospital and went straight to emergency. And they were really non-urgent, which was really hard because I was still getting contractions. I
Yeah.
was still in labor. I didn't know what was going on with the baby. And we were just like, "I'm in labor. We can't find the baby's heart rate." And they were just like, "Oh, you were in the wrong place." And I was like, "Okay, well, where do we go?"
What the fuck?
And then, so they gave me a wheelchair, and they gave us some really bad directions to the maternity ward.
Oh
And the
my
signage
god.
was so bad. And we had to go out of the doors, and those little things on the concrete that like make it non-slip or whatever, they're like raised
Dun, 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 dun,
gray
dun, dun.
things.
Yeah.
Those things. So I was on a wheelchair and like having contractions. Blah, 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 blah. So I just got up out of the wheelchair,
What-
and I was walking because I was like,
Get me
on a
fucking there.
mission.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we got there, and the signage was really bad. We couldn't find where we got to one place, and they're like, "Oh no, you've passed it. You need to go back." So we got back in there and presented to the maternity unit, and they were like, "Oh, because you haven't been to the hospital before, you need to fill out this form." I was like, in my head, I was like, sorry, bleep this out, but like, are you fucking kidding me? I need to fill out a form. Are you kidding me? Like, my baby, I'm in labor, blah, 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 all these things. And on the outside, I was like, "Give me the form." Because it's like, just give me the form. I don't care.
So this wasn't the hospital that you had registered with?
No, it wasn't, because I thought to myself, the reason why it wasn't was because we'd had friends who had babies in this other hospital, and I was like, "Look, if I change my mind at whatever point or whatever, I would choose to go in that hospital." But because it was emergency, we were like, boom, straight to the closest one, no matter what. Anyway, the midwife sort of came walking towards us and just said, "You can deal with that later," and brought us into a room, hospital room.
Your midwives that you'd had at home?
No, so you're still only allowed, I think it's like one or two support people or something, but they allowed my mum, Tyler, and one of our private midwives. So I had three people with me. That was the hospital midwives that came and got me, took me to a room with the midwife, my mum, and Tyler. they had an ultrasound machine. They did an ultrasound, and then a man came in who was a consultant, or maybe someone came in, did an ultrasound, and then another consultant came in and did an ultrasound. And because T and I both have allied health backgrounds, we kind of know a little bit about, you know, if a consultant's there and then a second consultant's there, it's not good.
It's not good. Yeah.
No. And he just said, see, he pointed to the screen and he said, this is the heart and it's not beating. So I was still in numb mode, kind of like what I am now. It's like, yeah, I just tell it like,
detached from what it actually is.
Yeah. Everyone else was a bit more emotional than I was at that point. Because for me, I still had a baby inside of me. I didn't know what, and I said, okay, well, what are my options? They said, well, you can continue naturally. You can have a Caesar, or you can have an epidural and be induced, essentially.
Yeah.
And like I knew that Caesar was my least preferred option because I know that there are lots of implications with that too.
Yeah.
Especially since even the consultant said it's safer for baby, but not as safe for mum. And at the moment, there's nothing that you can do about your baby's health. So I decided to go with an epidural.
Yeah.
It ended up having the epidural, but that was after like an hour or so of being in the hospital. Managed to get an epidural.
Yeah.
And the contraction had slowed down by this point to about 12 minutes apart or so. And then I was having, I think it's, is it Pitocin or something, whatever that
Syntocin, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. And so I had that in until like I had a couple of VEs while I was laying there with the epidural, but basically they said just rest. And we'll just wait until you're fully dilated. But essentially I had that in until like 7 o'clock the next day.
Oh my God. That's the IV. Is
So
that an IV drip?
Yeah, so it's like the epidurals, like they put the small needle into your back.
Yeah.
And you're essentially, it numbs you from the waist down. It's not fully numb, and I think some people don't. It doesn't.
You can still feel the contractions. Yeah.
I don't know if they gave me like a higher dose or whatever, but I could still feel every contraction. Excuse me. Like a tightening. It was still uncomfortable, but it wasn't painful, I guess.
Yeah.
It was enough that I couldn't sleep continuously. At that point, like T tried to sleep a little bit on that seat part in the hospital bedroom. My mum and the midwife went back home, and they cleaned up everything. They took down the pool. They cleaned the house essentially.
Yeah.
Throughout early hours of the morning. And
so by this point, it's Friday or Saturday?
Yep.
Friday,
and then into Saturday morning. So I ended up giving birth just after 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, which was the 22nd.
Yeah.
And that that was when it all caught up to me. You know, I was laying there. I hated not being able to feel stuff. You know, when I was giving birth, I felt like I had been in this really empowered position, and now I was just stuck on a bed, and I had to be told how to push because I couldn't feel. She was saying, feel my fingers, push on my fingers. I couldn't feel where she was pressing. And my mum filmed it because I wanted her to take photos and film and stuff. And in my head, how I remember it, it's just noise and chaos and everything. But then you look at the video and it's dead quiet. So inside my brain, I'm like that was the battle of my life. That I reckon I could have given up. That was at the point where I seriously questioned, can I do this? Giving birth to him, and he came out and he said, "Do you know what you're having?" He said, "No." He said, "Oh, it's a boy." And that's when I got like this. I just that was meeting his body, and they like rubbed him down and everything. They wrapped him up and they put him on me, and I just wish I had advocated a little bit for like skin to skin, because now looking back on that, like I crave that. Like I crave that feeling. And I feel really robbed of that. I don't blame anyone for anything. Like
so was he was wrapped up instead of having skin to skin, do you mean?
Yeah. So like in a hospital little blanket.
Yeah.
He cut the cord, and then I gave birth to the placenta about 20 minutes later, but maybe not even that long, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that was as you know, I don't know, it was an out of body experience. Really, he was. I know that all parents are biased, but he was like perfect.
Yeah.
He was so beautiful. He had these really huge hands and really big feet and long arms, just like Tyler.
Yeah.
He just looked like a mini copy of him, and I joke, God, babe, it's not the milkman. It's like just a little carbon copy of him. He was just beautiful, like long boy, and so that was, and then of course all the things start that you just don't have any idea about. Just all the death shit.
Yeah.
That sucks. The people coming in, and the things you have to sign and talk to, and
you have to fill in
and
a
we
death
both just
certificate and
you just like we just wanted to get out of there, honestly. And they wanted to keep me because I'd had an epidural, and we'd spoken to Tyler's family's from New Zealand. Spoken to them in the morning, and we were just all beside ourselves, and they hopped on a plane, and we said, like, we can stay here because we have to wait for a doctor, obviously, a consultant, and they'd talk to us about Heartfelt, the photography business, and we said to T's parents, like, do you want to meet him? And they said, of course, if that's okay with you. So they literally just packed their bags and got on a plane
Wow.
from New Zealand and said, we'll be there at 7:00.
Mm.
And I'm so grateful that they did that, because we probably would have left beforehand.
Yeah.
And in the last podcast that I listened that you did, you guys spoke about that. I don't know, the guilt and the shame that comes with that.
Yeah. With leaving the hospital, you mean?
Yeah, with the decision of when to leave, like should you wait, blah blah blah.
It's so hard.
Um, yeah,
And
there's
not
no
and
right or wrong.
no, and even today I was driving again today thinking about it, and like most of my family didn't get to meet her, and I was driving thinking, why didn't I invite them up to meet her after she'd passed? Like, I invited who I could when she was alive, and once she'd passed, we just like left. And Dylan and myself and his mum went to the funeral home and saw her, and it wasn't until the day of her funeral that my dad was like, can I see her? And I was like, oh my word, of course. And then he got scared and changed his mind, and he didn't. And I just, like, that's one of my biggest regrets as well, is not inviting people to have met her even after she passed. I just
Yeah,
scared. I don't
and
know.
but
I
it's
was.
not talked about. Like, you don't know. Like,
Mm-mm.
even at the hospital, they don't say, have you considered if you
Mm.
want to meet them? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
God knows if anyone had said that to me, what I would have been like anyway.
Right. I
I don't
agree. Yeah.
know. But yeah, I wish my sister who lived on the Sunshine Coast, would have. Same thing with your dad, like same thing with my dad, but he was up in Cairns, and my
Yeah.
brother in Melbourne. I know it's not as easy as just jumping on a plane. That would in-laws would, in a
And
position that
and
they could do that.
Yeah, and you as the parent in that moment, you're so numb and shocked and whatever, that you don't, like, I didn't care that my family hadn't come. I didn't, it wasn't, but I also hadn't
Mm,
invited them, but I just wasn't even in the space to think or do any of these things. It's just like, I can't think other people do what you think. And, like, if my parents had have just
yeah.
arrived, but it was just, you can't think. You actually just can't.
No, no, absolutely not. And it's such a whirlwind, and that's the really hard part, because some people probably miss out on a few things because it is a
Yeah,
whirlwind, and it's everyone's decision too. Like, it's very personal as to what
absolutely.
feels right for you. Um,
Mm.
but I'm so grateful for spending that whole day, and we didn't. The heartfelt photographer came like later in the
Oh,
afternoon, and
good.
we both said, like, no, we don't want photos with Sprout. Um, we just have photos of him. But she did end up taking
Okay.
like a couple with us in there. And oh my God, I don't
Okay.
know why I didn't say, yes, please take some photos with me and my
Uh,
son. Because they're all
yeah.
you have. They're all
Mm-hmm.
you have. I wish I had
I know.
taken more videos. I wish I had done all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I know that in that moment you're like, what am I going to do? Sit here and pose? It feels strange. And I've said that in every single episode. It feels so strange. I have a professional photographer here taking them, but definitely, like, you do love and appreciate them so much after. And I'm so glad that you got a couple of them, that she snuck them in, because she would have known that you would appreciate them in the long run.
100%. And Mum was great. She took photos the whole time. And
Mm.
they're things that I just can't, you can't put into words what they mean in
Mm-mm.
hindsight. Even like getting his fingerprint, like for this necklace, I've got his fingerprint, and
Mm.
we didn't do that till a few days later. But there's all these options that you can do, but you've got a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the time frame that you've got is when you're in the most vulnerable, like, cooked
Yeah.
state. Um, so it just seems really unfair that, I mean, it's just reality, but it just seems really unfair that those things, you have such a small window to act on it.
And I guess in that time is when it's so valuable for the people around you, like midwives or bereavement social workers or anything like that, to give you all the facts and then be like, you might feel like you won't want this, but we're going to do this for you. And it's going to be like, so, we're going to take fingerprints, handprints. They're going to be in your Precious Wings box. And if you want to look at them later, you can. But just so you know, we're going to do that. Like, that's what they did for us, because they offered for us to take it in the hospital, and we did the one pink footprint and Dylan did a hand. And then it was not long after that we freaked out and left the hospital. And they were like, we're going to take prints and stuff when you're gone. And so we've got loads of beautiful little prints that they took for us for just in case, which I'm so grateful they did that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole list of the whole just in case things that you wish someone would just do for you. But, you can only have so much in your brain. At that time. We were really lucky. I say that, we're really lucky, like, are we really? We lost our child. But the funeral director, he was the same funeral director for my grandfather who passed away a couple of years ago. So he was known to our family, and he was really beautiful, and he was fantastic.
Nice.
We decided not to have a funeral. We got sporadic cremated, but he was great. He was the one who knew all the things and organised and did all the liaising and picked him up from the hospital, because I hated knowing that he was in a cold room and by himself, and like the image of leaving the hospital literally left him in the arms of a midwife and walked out through those doors, and I will never ever get that out of my brain. Leaving my boy with someone who, that's not his mom. That's not someone who will love him like I will. That's unfair. That's really unfair, having to leave your child. And I know that you felt that too, and it just goes against everything. Like everything within you, leaving them. It just feels so wrong, but we could have taken him home, we could have stayed longer, all of those things.
Yeah.
But also you've got to decide, like, what's right. If we had brought him home, like, his skin would have continued to degrade. We would have then had memories with him at home, and I think that would have been really hard too.
Yeah, I agree.
All of those things, and it's ironic in a way. Like, imagine if I had given birth and he had passed and I had given birth at home, like, that would have just added a whole nother layer. So there's all of those things, and we were still also in the bubble of, well, what happened?
Well, that was just about to be my next question. What did happen?
When he was born, he did have the cord around his neck twice, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was white, which was weird.
Okay.
But again,
because it should be red.
There. Yeah. But it's totally normal for babies to have the cord around their neck. But it was weird that the cord was white. But again, he'd been in there for at least 12 plus hours, right? So we don't know. Blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of all we had to go off. And they measured him. He was light.
His weight was not so heavy.
In his weight, yeah, so his weight was light, which is weird though, because he wasn't a small baby, didn't look, like he didn't have the weight. I think I always get it wrong. 2 point something. Where is it? 2.7, 2.8
Okay.
kilos.
Yeah.
I was smaller than that when I was born.
Yeah, it's not like
Um,
it's not a huge baby, but it's not tiny. Millie was 3.4, but everyone commented
yeah.
how big she was. Do you know what I mean? Like she was a big girl. So,
Mm.
and so did you do an autopsy or did they test the placenta or the umbilical cord or anything like that?
So we decided to not get an autopsy. Reason for us was it doesn't change the outcome. We knew that like Bubba and me were both getting like full blood tests and everything, so we'd know some things from that, and the placenta was going to be tested. And we just couldn't
Yeah.
bear the thought of him being poked and prodded.
Mm,
So this is a bit of a fast forward, I guess. I'd done lots of emotional work, coming to terms with we don't really know. We're part of the 1% um, of what was it type thing. Like there was no reason that the hospital gave us, blah blah blah. Even
Yeah.
after our 6 weeks checkup with the hospital, they didn't say anything. And it was really hard for us to get the placenta back. We decided to go on an overseas trip 6 weeks after because we just needed to go.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess that's a whole other part to the story. So we said, the hospital said, the placenta's not ready yet. Contact us when you come back, and then you can get it then. That was before Christmas. We came back, and they said, "Oh, it's not ready yet. It'll be ready in a couple of weeks." And we were going away to New Zealand, which we'd already planned, and Melbourne for Christmas. This was booked before Sprout was born.
Mm.
And then, so I couldn't pick it up then. And they said, okay, well, contact us when you're back in the new year. And then I contacted them when we were back, and then it was still weeks after that. So we didn't get the placenta back until really, what are we now? April? Like, like I'd say 2 months ago maximum.
And so what was the delay?
Well, the placentas go to the mother, and I think they
Okay.
get held there or something. So it was whether or not someone had actually requested it to be like brought back, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And so
And
did they test it? Did it come back inconclusive? What was the
so they came back, and this is where like we've so it came back, and it was found that his cord wasn't actually attached to the placenta. So
what?
there's marginal insertion, which is where it's 2 centimeters away, but we had 5 centimeters. So I think it's referred to as velamentous cord insertion, VCI. Um, it's basically where the cord is not attached to the placenta. It's attached via like blood vessels. So there's 3 blood vessels or 2 blood vessels, and the membrane of the placenta. So the transfer of nutrients obviously isn't as profound. There was a couple of
Mm.
other things, but um, we've had a consult with the OB at the hospital about this, so this is where the information sort of come from, as well as consulting with our current midwife for this new bubba. Um, and he explained that that would that's by his understanding
The
that's the
cause, the
reason.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and he said pretty much. Now I'm paraphrasing here, but pretty much there was very little, if any, chance that he would have survived a vaginal birth. So even if I was in
Wow.
hospital, um, and if it had been if it had been picked up, then I would have been recommended to be induced early, and even then, most likely either an emergency C-section. Basically, it's highly likely that the only way he would have been born alive is a Caesar early.
Yeah.
They would have, and that was not indicated at any point along our journey. There was nothing that was picked up in our 20-week scan, which is when it would have been picked up, which is typically when module insertions and stuff. Because to my understanding, you can have it can be within a certain amount, but then it can get worse.
I was going to say, can it change? So they could have seen maybe if they didn't see it at the 20-week one, could they have seen it at like 30, 32?
But look, but I don't know. I'm not going to even say potentially because I don't know. Because it was 5 centimeters, you'd sort of think that at 20 weeks it wouldn't just be nothing, and then all of a sudden 5 centimeters. And after 20 weeks, you don't normally get another scan anyway. So,
yeah.
So that was a really huge. Sorry.
Yeah, that's massive. Have you still got the report from your 20-week scan? Like, have you?
Yeah.
Had a look at that to see if there's anything on there? Wow.
Well, even the doctor had a look at it. So yeah, that was a big whiplash for us, and that was only a month ago or so.
Yeah.
Because we now, for me, had to get readjusted to there being a reason. Trying to deal with my feelings about it should have been picked up, and why wasn't it picked up? But also, I know those scans aren't 100% accurate anyway. Like, they can't be.
It's so hard.
And there was no way that we could have known. There's no way, even if, again, no matter what place of birth we were going to, we've gone in not having that knowledge. So if anything was going to happen,
it could have
the
happened
outcomes
in the
were
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it definitely there could have been things happening in the hospital, but
and so you were being monitored at home as well.
Yeah.
Like, they were checking his heart rate. How long had it been since when they last checked his heart rate to when you were in the bedroom and they couldn't find it? Had it been like a significant amount of time?
An hour, which is normal.
It's so shit. It's just like, you did everything that was normal for you, everything that you felt was right. You did all the right things to do the home birth, and like you're saying, if you were in hospital, they would have checked you at the same amount of times anyway. So the same, because they don't. This is one of the things that I kick my hands in the air about all the time, is that they don't do ultrasounds when you go in anyway. So when you went into labor in the hospital, they would not have done an ultrasound, so they wouldn't have seen that anyway. When they went in to cut me open for Milli, they don't scan you before they even cut you open. So when you have a cesarean, they don't, so Milli was in a wrong position or a different position to what they thought. And I was like, why don't they scan? Oh, we just feel with our hands. Well, you felt wrong, so, which blows my mind. Like, I'm a bit of an over scanner because I'm a scaredy cat. So I had so many scans and Milli's condition still wasn't picked up. So, even if you had so many scans, they might not have picked it up anyway.
Exactly right. And that's why I'm not angry. I can't be, because it doesn't matter your situation sometimes. You can have the most amount of medical attention or least amount, and you can still end up in this position. And that's not me trying to just say it wouldn't have mattered. Because I'm still, for this little bubba, like, we have a planned home birth as well. We are doing a couple of extra scans and all of that. And But we did everything that we could have with the information that we had.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just what you do through pregnancy, right? No matter what your journey, if you have a high risk or not, you're still just going off the information that you get given.
Yeah, and you trust who you're talking to, and you only do what you feel. Hold on, my little puppy wants to get outside. Hold on. I'm gonna go out there. Dylan's home. He's like, let me out, daddy. We go for our scans or we go for our appointments, we get told one thing and we're like, yep, that's cool. And one of the biggest things I think everyone always says now is, if I knew then what I know now. We don't know
Yeah.
until we know, sadly.
No, absolutely not.
And so you were just saying then, so with your current pregnancy now, you're planning on doing a home birth, but you're doing more scans in the lead up to that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we just had our 28-week scan today, and everything's
28. What?
yeah. I know, crazy, back to back, baby.
So exciting.
Um,
Yeah.
but it just, at some point too, and I can say this because I'm having a good day.
Yeah.
um, but you just have to trust and move forward,
Yeah.
because otherwise there's no reprieve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's you can all hindsight's a beautiful thing, and you can do everything right by you or everything right by someone else, and that and you just don't know. So you have to make decisions and you have to trust those decisions, even if yeah,
And so I
I don't
guess,
know.
like,
It's
yeah, what I'm taking from that, what you're saying is that, like, you are trying to enjoy your pregnancy for what it is now and moving forward, and knowing that you did the best you could in the pregnancy you had before, and that you can't continue to blame yourself or people or anything like that. And then, yeah, it's I really hope that when I think about being pregnant again, and I'm so excited and I yearn for it, and then I'm like so scared, and I'm just all the things, like I'm so scared. But also I said to my psychologist the other week, like, I don't want my next baby or pregnancy or anything to live in the shadows of what we've experienced, because it's not
mm,
fair on the next child. They deserve to have that joyful, beautiful pregnancy that we
mm,
had with our first. Um, and then the life that they will live after, because I know we're going to have babies, right? We in the infertility world, everyone always says, well, we never do know, but I think we always feel in our hearts, like, I always knew I would be pregnant. I always saw that for
yes,
myself. And strangely, I never really imagined bringing Millie home, which is a really crazy thing, and now I can imagine bringing a baby home. So um, I love that you're in, like, your headspace is really beautiful, and I know that you said you feel a little bit like baby brain and everything, but like the way you've just spoken about everything is so real and raw, because I could feel that you have gone back to that moment and those days, and you were literally reliving it. And so to be able to do that whilst you're pregnant again is quite powerful.
yeah. Well, it's definitely easier on some days, and we've done I've done counselling with Tyler, and we will continue, as well as individually for myself, to get to this point. And I know it's a long journey; it's lifelong now. We're on that train.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
but something that came up in my therapy session on your point was
Mm.
I was feeling that guilt about feeling so upset still about our loss and Sprout and all of that. And she said, your baby this next baby, who we've nicknamed Melon, that's its bump name. So Sprout
Mhm.
is called Sprout because that was his bump name. And we didn't know
Okay.
if it was a boy or a girl. And when he was born, we just thought we can't call him anything else because we only ever knew him as Sprout. So
That's so
that's why
cute.
we have a child named Sprout.
Yeah.
But she was saying that your your baby is going to have lots of your attention when they're born and through their life. And right now is Sprout's time, and it's okay for you to have that time with Sprout and
Oh, I
to
quite like that.
yeah. So just taking the shame away from the guilt that we feel trying to hold,
Mm,
being pregnant and grieving, and it's so hard to be present sometimes whilst you're pregnant and still grieving.
yeah. I
Uh,
can only like I
that's
just
really
yeah.
hard.
Mm.
It is
And
really
does it
hard.
remind you, like, does your mind go back to your pregnancy with Sprout? Like, I just imagine that that's what it will be, just that mm, reminder.
Yeah, it is, and it's beautiful and it's special, but it is tainted
Mm,
because there was so many times where we were part of the minority. The small it only happens to a few people. Well, we ended up being those few people. So the
yep.
statistics kind of mean nothing to me anymore. um, but you try and take the good days on the good days, and you hold each other on the bad days.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
that just is that just is. But it's yeah. There's I felt a lot of guilt at the start, um, especially it being so quick. Kind of
How far
like
between?
what
I remember when you and
mm,
I started talking, was when I had just been in America, or maybe I was still over there, and I posted about postpartum or getting my period while we are away. And then you reached out to me and
mm,
you're like, oh my gosh, yes, like you got your period when you're on your holiday, and it's like your baby's meant to
mm,
be there. We're not even meant to be on these holidays. And, so it sounds all well and good when we're like, oh yeah, we went overseas, but it's also like I'm only, I had the choice of Mexico or Milli. And I didn't have a choice, but, I was
yeah,
in Mexico, but I would have chosen Milli. And
yeah,
then yeah, your milk is still coming in, your period comes back. It was just fucked, really.
yeah,
Postpartum is fucked without a baby.
yeah. It is. You have all of these body changes, and I had hectic hair loss too, like
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah,
Still have it.
so much, so much, and you don't have the reward. You don't have the
Yeah,
thing that makes it all worth it, and
yeah,
that is such an emotional struggle, and it takes. I'm not going to say strength because I don't think you really have the option. You just have to put one foot in front of the other. But I think it takes courage. It takes real
mm,
courage for people to walk in that, because it's scary, man. Every day, yeah, it's
yeah,
that new it's that new normal. You're never going to be the same again. You wouldn't change it, but it
yeah.
still feels like a nightmare. It doesn't feel like it happened to you most days, and then other days you're like, what the hell?
That did happen. Yeah, that is my life. Yeah,
Yeah, smacking you with reality. Um,
yeah.
but it's a profound experience, and there's so much more I think I could say, but I feel like, yeah, there's it's so involved, isn't it?
It really is, and I think the way you speak about it is almost like from I'm trying to think of the right words now. I've got grief brain. I was about to say you've got
Don't worry
baby
about
brain.
the
The
right
words.
words. It doesn't matter.
But I just like it's almost like you're speaking as if it wasn't your story. But I know that the emotion is there and it was your story. But I feel like you have done, I imagine, a lot of work to get to this point. and then to be experiencing pregnancy after loss, and then to have your marriage and just everything. But I think it's just such a beautiful way that you've spoken about it.
Thank you.
And what I was going to say as well was about finding out the cause so long later, like when we thought Millie had one condition, and then so many months later we found out it was a different one, and then we thought we might have been carriers, and then all of a sudden we weren't. It's like you have to grieve. You go through the process again.
Yeah. I literally felt like I had been transported back to day one. I thought, what kind of cruel joke has just been played on me? And
Yeah.
I was stunned. It really, it affected me way more than what I could have ever imagined. You'd think, oh, you've got a reason now. Doesn't make it easier. Like, he's still gone. And now you just replay everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Why didn't I
like you
pick
say,
up on this? Why didn't I? Yeah.
all of those things. And I can articulate it now because I have, I am super passionate about not keeping your story or speaking about not speaking about your child and all of those things. So I guess I'm used to say the story or saying things or talking about Sprout without getting super emotional, because I just go into that that role of I'm
Autopilot.
telling my son's story, yeah.
Mm.
And it is hard to be raw and vulnerable because it's still there, And the biggest thing I've really struggled with is when you finally allow yourself to feel happiness or joy or any level of emotion that isn't even, you feel, and even in the bad side as well, it's like your grief is ready and it's piggybacking on any big emotion that you have. So if I'm not even, it's scary. And that's really hard to go from someone who's so life-loving to now being almost a little bit scared of experiencing pure happiness or pure joy or any of those things, because you crash really hard. And you don't think, you think, oh, I've gotten out of this. And then a day later, you're like in the trenches and you cry and you're, a puddle for 24 hours.
Isn't it
And
crazy
that's
how
the stuff
many
that people
times you
don't
do
see.
think, yeah, isn't it crazy? Like, I remember it hit like 3 or 4 months and I was like, oh, this is when you get good. Like, you're just good all of a sudden. And then I was like, oh, nope, there it is back again. And then you get to like 6 months and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm out of it. Oh, no, back in it again. Like you think you've hit this level of like, oh, no, I'm good now. And now I've realized that doesn't, like, we're almost at 9 months because you're only a few days. It's weird, almost 9 months to when she was born. And I've just realized now, and I've been saying it to people lately, I just enjoy every day that I can because I don't know when a dark day is going to come again. And sometimes things trigger that you'd least expect. There's some things I expect to be. I thought Easter was going to be hard, but I was actually okay. Who knows what my next trigger is going to be? I don't know what it's going to be. And so you've just got to literally enjoy the joy when you find it. But that's so interesting what you were just saying about, like, you're scared of joy because you know that piggybacking is grief and that's just going to come back, and what goes up must come down, sadly.
Big time. I remember at Christmas, like, Christmas was really hard, but my sister-in-law and her partner, that they got engaged, and I was so happy, so happy. And then the next day, I didn't realize this until after, but the next day, everyone was doing their own thing and blah blah blah, which was great. And I was like, oh no, I'll stay at home. And I cried for like 3 hours straight, and I was like, where has this come from? Like, so many beautiful things have been happening. Like, we're around family. And then I realized it was one of the first times that there'd been this really huge wave of happy emotion that wasn't, you know, to do with myself type thing. It was something out in my life.
Yeah.
And then it was like the floodgates had opened because my body was like, oh, we can feel. Quick, let's, you know, and just the toll that takes, and sometimes even the toll it takes to try and keep yourself even. It's really exhausting. It's really exhausting.
Yeah.
Grief exhaustion is, it's completely different to pregnancy exhaustion. And the two together is freaking vicious, but it's like it won't let you ignore it.
Yeah, that's so true.
You
I
know?
need to keep remembering that. I just said to my osteo today, I'm so exhausted, but I think I've just been trying to be normal, or what did you call it? Like even, equal, even.
Yeah, even, yeah.
Yeah. You know, like
Homeostatic.
trying to be that for so, like, you know, I have been good since we got back from New Zealand. And yeah, maybe that's why I'm so tired, because I'm just so tired of like trying to just be okay. We actually,
Yeah.
I was on the Central Coast on the weekend seeing family, and my cousin's fiance is pregnant, and they had a baby shower, and I just kept crying all weekend. And it wasn't because she was pregnant, it wasn't to the baby shower. I actually didn't go to it, I worked, but she has an anterior placenta, and I didn't realize how that's what I had with Milli, and I never felt Milli. And I got very dismissed by the hospital on every scan and everything that, you know, she's moving, she's fine, you can't feel it, it's just because of your anterior placenta. So I just assumed no one can, you know, everyone says, anyway, so we were just sitting at lunch, and I said, oh, can you feel him? Because she kept going like that. And I just put my hand on her belly, and then she goes, oh, he had the hiccups for the first time the other day. And I just burst into tears at lunch in front of everyone. And I was like, I never felt like, you know, I was just so sad. And it hit me, and I was like, so sorry. And they were all love. It was just all my cousins, and, you know, it was my auntie, and it was fine. But you just don't know when something's going to hit you, and then you quickly feel bad and you pull yourself together, and then you go on with your day. And it's fucked. It's just,
Yeah.
but yeah, you know, that's
And
all part
then,
of the exhaustion as well, because you're just trying to be normal and trying not to impact. Because then I felt bad to her. She's pregnant. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, please don't be sorry. And it's like,
yeah, then you have a whole lot of other stuff. I have a lot of, you know, like sharer's guilt,
okay.
which
Explain
I'll
that.
probably feel, to be honest, after this podcast. But as you can probably tell, I can talk underwater. Um, um, but also, like I said before, I am really open about our story because I don't ever want anyone to feel alone.
Yeah.
Like we have a really beautiful community, but it doesn't matter if you haven't been through it. It's just different, and that's no
Yeah.
one else's fault. So I just want to be that safe space for anyone who has that. So that's why I'm so vocal.
Yeah, I love that.
But even though I'm so vocal, there's still so much that you don't say.
Oh,
But
I know.
after sharing,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, we can't share everything anyway, but after sharing with a friend or, yeah, I don't know, social media or whatever, and then afterwards you're like, oh, why did I say that? Or like oh, I shouldn't have said it to that person, or you don't know what other people are going through, and, you know, that person didn't need to know that, or am I being stupid for sharing my life? Or, you know, I've shared so much today, and there's still so much more that obviously I haven't shared that you just can't write, like there's not enough time. But you
Yeah.
know, people listening to you, like they don't know you as a human, or even if they do, sometimes they don't know the full story or the context, um, or the ins and outs or the nuances that, or what's happened or what you've felt or gone through to be able to say it in a particular way. So
Yeah,
then you
that's
just
right.
feel super shit about sharing. And it's just a little
You
bit of
feel
a
bad
cycle
if you
fix.
cried, then you feel bad if you don't cry. Like sometimes if I'm talking and I'm not crying, I'm like, they
Mm,
must think I'm so, cold hearted. And I'm the same, like
mm,
I'll leave a lunch and then I'll message a girlfriend. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We just talked about Millie so much at the end. And she's like, oh my gosh, always talk about Millie. But I'm like, I do know what you mean now. Like you feel like, oh my God, did I take over that whole conversation? Do they just think that's all I ever talk about now? Like totally,
mm.
you know, I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
Share is guilt.
It's sharer's guilt, 100%. I get that a lot, but you kind of just have
Mm,
to wear it. It's
yeah. Well, it is, right? And my thing I always say is like it is in the forefront of my mind always. So if I'm not talking about Millie, I'm thinking about her. So when you bring up the conversation, I love that I can talk about her because I've 9 times out of 10 been thinking about her the whole time
mm.
anyway. You can't not.
Well, that's like, I feel that 100%. And the single hardest thing, in terms of conversation now since being pregnant is I didn't
Mm,
realize how many people ask me the question, is this your first?
mm,
And
yeah.
I don't blame anyone for asking that question.
Mm,
It's so fine. But also, what do you say? And I think
mm-hmm,
it might be different later in life, but
mm,
I am so fiercely holding on to, our boy's life. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud to be his mom that I never
mm,
say, yes, it's my first. I always say, no, it's my second. And 9 times out of 10, there's a
yeah.
follow up question. Oh, how old's your first? And I
Mm-hmm,
never know what to say. Usually say something along the lines of, we've got an angel baby. He
mm-hmm.
passed during labor.
He,
And then, their face falls and they're like, I'm so sorry. And you don't need that or want that, but you're like,
no,
what's the alternative? I don't tell you, and then
yeah.
I feel like
Then you
I've
feel like
just
shit. Yeah.
yeah, but also it's not fair on that
Just
other person
disowned
because
my child. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't want to drop a bomb on some random at the grocery store, even though I've done it like 50
I
times.
know. I
But it's
know.
honestly, it's just like I don't know. There's no social protocol of vetting who is the right person to say, oh no, yeah, it's my second because I
It's so
lost
hard.
my first. Um,
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that because you're either
Mm.
denying yourself or your child. I feel now, even though, like logically, I know that that's not true, right?
Mm. I know. But I can understand that.
Hmm.
I can totally understand that.
But it's that funny, and I because we're in similar timelines, we're in that funny place of yeah, like I'm no longer feeling like I need to talk about Sprout in every single conversation. But when
Mhm.
he's brought up, I adore it. Like, yes,
Mhm. Mhm.
please say something about
100%.
him. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and yeah, it's hard to detach the grief from your dead child. So you hang on to the grief as a bit of a safety blanket because it brings back the feelings.
Wow.
Um, but you can't stay there.
No,
You know,
you actually
that's
can't.
not no, that's not going to be helpful. Um,
I think one of the
love and
best
joy
things
can grow
somebody
around
said,
that grief.
yeah, I remember somebody said, like, enjoy it now because you will have to get up eventually. And
Mm,
and I think I really did in that time, but I am so grateful that for a good 4 months I just literally cried and slept and cried and slept and I didn't brush my teeth and I didn't give a fuck about anything. And I'm so glad, because you do have to eventually get up and get out of the house and do things and go back to work and all the things. And, you know, not that you need an excuse to lay in bed all day, but it does get harder to be able to do those things, especially, you know, when you have more children or something like that, you know. It's so yeah, I appreciate that somebody said that at the time, like, just revel in it, you know, and I did
Yeah.
for a really long time.
Yeah, you got to feel it. You know, what's that children's book? Can't go over it, can't go under it. Got to go feel
Oh
it.
yeah, that's a good book.
Yeah, yeah. What's going on in my mind at other times.
I I wanted to ask you one more thing. Is your so you've had obviously scans with Melon, and are
Yeah.
they able to
Yeah.
check? They able to look at your placenta and check your placenta and the cords and how it's, what's it called, the insertion?
Velamentous cord insertion. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that they typically do look at in the 20-week scan. They do look at your placenta and the cord flow and things like that. So the OB was perplexed that it wasn't picked up, and even confused as to why no one at the hospital said something when I gave birth, because it would have been really obvious. It's 5 centimeters away, and the cord's not literally attached to the placenta.
Yeah, why didn't, so
It's
that wasn't on
weird.
your record, your labor record, your birth record or anything? No.
No, no, not on the discharge papers.
That's bullshit.
No reason for fetal demise or whatever, the most triggering word in the whole entire universe. We can start a petition to never have to hear those. Fetal demise is like,
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
oh, yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was nothing. There's no indication. But yeah, those scans are meant to be able to pick them up, to my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've now had them with Melon, and the placenta looks good, the cord looks good.
Yeah, from what we know. Again, we're just going off the information that we got given, so we're just hoping and praying that the whole lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice applies to us, because it's such a small. I mean, it's like Milli, right? Like one in.
It's 1 in 50,000, but it still happened to one. It's still a fucking, even so. We're doing IVF now, and Dylan's like, so should we just try again this month? And I was like, no. Like, I've made the decision. We're doing IVF genetically. You know, I'm going to transfer a genetically good embryo, because what if we fell pregnant, and what if something happened again? And even still transferring a good genetic embryo, I'm still fucking scared that what if there was just this one thing that they couldn't test for, and what if that was it? You know, like it's like you were saying at the beginning of the podcast, like we are now forever tainted.
Yeah.
Our experience is
Statistics
always going to
matter anymore.
No, because we're fucking that many different statistics between endometriosis, infertility, miscarriage, baby loss. Like, fuck me, how many more can we add?
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. How many 1% groups do you want to be a part of before you go, well, I'm just going to go off some face value stuff for now, because I can't go off the science and stuff. But nothing's perfect.
No.
I tell myself that. I hold on to that.
And so when is little Melon due?
End of June, start of July. So third try now. Started the third try.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very happy too. Yes.
Yeah.
So very, very ready for this little sunshine.
Agreed. That's what I've just started using the little sunshine emoji, because Milli was our rainbow baby, and this one will be sunshine for sure.
Yeah.
Well, my darling, is there anything else that you would like to add? You are the first person that we've had on here that has had a home birth or attempted a home birth, however you want to, and that you're going to be having another home birth. There was one girl I interviewed right near the beginning, Haley, and she had planned a home birth, but then at a 20-week scan found out that baby was unwell and ended up birthing in the hospital before she passed away. So yeah, is there anything that you want to share or add, or
I don't know. I guess on the home birth front, the reason why, not that I feel like I need to justify, but that's just where I feel comfortable and safe. And
yeah,
especially with all of the mental stuff that we've been through losing our babies, if I can feel in any way the safest way possible, that's what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to deny, um, if I need medical attention, I need medical attention. I'm not going to be silly about it or anything like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but just going with, I think you've probably said this in a lot of your podcasts, but going with your gut and trusting is just so important, and trusting the process of what's good for you, because what's good for you is what's best for your baby.
yeah,
And I really
yeah,
love families who defend that, and in no matter what setting. That's not a home birth
yeah.
statement. That's just a, just trust you. It's
That's what I
so
was just about to
powerful.
say. Like in whatever you said, I was going to say, like, you just have to trust your gut and whatever feels right for you,
Mm.
whatever, eases your anxiety, whatever. Our path is all laid out for us, I truly believe. And so whether we have 1,000 scans, whether we have no scans, whether we do low toxic lifestyle, high, whatever,
Oh,
our
you do
shit's
you.
already fucking
You do you, boo.
right.
In my
Literally.
opinion,
And
if you're
yeah,
happy, that's the good shit. Do that.
yeah, yeah,
Do that,
yeah.
because life
Well,
is too short.
yeah.
Life is too short. Life can be taken away. Love hard
Mm-hmm.
and go forward with
Yeah.
that, I reckon.
Mm. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. You're a little doll, and we are not too far away. So I don't know if you're
Yeah, we'll
in the
catch up.
group on Facebook. Are you in the Little Life Big Loss catch up group on Facebook?
No, I didn't know that we had one. I'll have to
I'll
look
add
into
you
that.
in. We're having
Yeah.
a catch up next Sunday, I think it is, and I'm kind of doing like north of Gold Coast, so that people that are in Brizzy could maybe come down.
Oh, yeah. I get my geography
So.
a little bit mixed up. So I'm like, North Gold Coast, where is that? Is that towards me
I'll
or
add
away from me? I don't
closer to
know.
you. You're funny. I'll add you in, and hopefully we can catch up and meet in real life and have a big cuddle.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on, and hopefully this
Pleasure
potty
as
will be out this
always.
weekend. Mm.
You. And thank you for all the work that you're doing too. I just want to, share on behalf of others. I know the stuff that you do is not easy, and especially with what you've been through and still go through. So, you know, keep going, girlfriend. You're doing the good
Thanks,
stuff.
Kiki.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, darling.
Spread the love.
Bye.
All right. See ya.
Bye.